So we now go straight to drawing the half flower. So in making the half flower, all that we require is our flower, and we also require a sharp blade. You can use this razor, or you can use any kind of sharp blade, even the one from dissecting set. So when you now hold it, you hold the flower at the peduncle in such a way that the part which contains the floral part faces away from you, and what is pointing towards you is the stalk. So when you hold it, what you do is you cut it with a sharp blade. You should be very careful. You cut it at the middle, like that, with a lot of care. The only thing you do is that you cut it by cutting it very, very carefully, making sure that you do not destroy the parts that are inside. So I cut it like that, very carefully. So when I cut it now, I open up. So when I open up now, I see that I've made this flower into two halves. So this one is one half and this another half. So for us now, when we make this half flower, the first thing we look at is that, are these two halves mirror images? This is obvious. These ones are mirror images. They are all the same. So we describe this flower as being actinomorphic because the sides are the same and it has radial symmetry. So we describe this flower as actinomorphic, and the sign that we use is this. This is a sign for actinomorphic, meaning that it has radial symmetry. So I will now make the half flower of hibiscus, and you'll see how it is done. So I hold it at the peduncle, I take my blade, and I reduce the stalk, then I start cutting it at the center, making sure that I do not destroy the other parts. So I start cutting it, I'm cutting it and coming down. The only thing that is guiding me here is doing it carefully. There's nothing else apart from being careful. So you see that I'm cutting it down. You have to be very careful. Well, if you are not very careful, you cut this part and you will not end up. Okay. So I cut it like this. Then I separate it into two. I'll use this part which has the style. So when I cut it now, I see that I've made a half flower. These are the two halves of the hibiscus that I've cut. So I've made the style to go to one part so that I should use that part. So this is a half flower. And from this half flower, or what we call the longitudinal section of the flower, you can be able to see the location of the ovary. You can see the ovary located there, and you can see the ovules right inside. So with this, you can also see the arrangement of the parts. You can see the arrangement of the petals. You see whether the petals are contorted, they are imbricate, or they are free. So now, when I cut it like this is what is called a half flower, and I'm required to draw this half flower. So the parts that I will draw on the board are only these parts that have been cut. So I equally go to the board again, and I start from the stalk, but this time around, the stalk has been cut like that. So this part is what has been cut. So I'll draw it like this. This is the part that has been cut. It's cut like that. It's cut like that. And then I have this other part that comes up like that. Comes up. Comes like this. This other part comes up like that. Comes back like this. So when these ones come now, they come up to form my style. The stigma up here. And then from here I have the style inside here, which comes down and then ends in the ovary down here. And then here in the ovary, and say the ovary where I have this part like that with the ovules up this way. These are the ovules. So when I do it now, I am still seeing these other parts like that, which were cut. Now the other parts of that flower that were cut. So I have my unraised here, resume, that way. So this is a half flower. I must draw these parts like this to actually indicate that these are the cut parts. So this part must be double to indicate that it was cut. This part and this one, bring it like this. This is the cut part. It must be indicated. So when you draw it now like this, This is the half flower. So you will now be required to level. This one is the pedicel, and this one is the ovule. This is the ovary. And then this is the style. This one is sepal. This is petal. This is filament. This is anther. Then stigma. Then I'll come and write the title, a half flower of hibiscus, which has been cut. So it is always advisable to start from below, but if you know how to start from up and draw it better, no problem. This is just one method that I am giving. So this is the half flower. Then after the half flower, we have the floral diagram. The floral diagram of the flower. How do we draw the floral diagram? In drawing the floral diagram, what we do is we take the flower as it is. We hold it at the peduncle, at the end, like this. This is what is called the peduncle, and the head of the flower points away from you. So we hold it at the peduncle, and we take our hand. As we are going down, any part that we touch, we are going to give that part a name, and we are going to draw that part. But these ones are drawn using simplified line drawings. Okay, in drawing the floral diagram, we hold the flower at the peduncle so that the head points away from you. So when we hold it now, we take our finger and we start from the stalk going downwards. Any part that we touch, we look at it, we count it, and we remove it. So from here, I have seen this part here, this part which is down here. These are the bracts. There are 6 of them, and they are separate. So I come, on the floral diagram, we can indicate just one bract, like that. We do not need to indicate many. I can indicate just one. So when I indicate it now, I cut them off. Remove them carefully without destroying the other part. So when I cut them, what I am seeing now is these green structures. So these ones now are the sepals from our spark. These ones, we had our mnemonic spark. So from our spark, this one that I'm seeing inside are the sepals. So 5 of them. And these 5 sepals are fused. They are not free. So I come now and I draw these 5 sepals which are fused. I draw them like that, which are fused. Like 5 sepals which are fused. So since they are fused, I will join these edges like that to indicate that they are fused. So when I draw them and indicate now, I remove the petals. So I remove them carefully without destroying the inner structures. So when I remove them now, the part that I'm touching inside now is the petals. And the petals are free. There are 5 of them and they are free. But they have a particular arrangement. These petals have a particular arrangement in that when we look at it from down this way, we see that each one is overlapping to the other. There is some overlap. They are overlapping. One edge is inside and one edge is outside. So this kind of arrangement is what is described as a regular arrangement. So, and I count, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I count and I draw the 5 petals which are overlapping like that. 4, 5. These are the 5 petals that are overlapping. So I could color them. I could shade them very lightly to differentiate between the sepals and the petals. So they could be shaded very lightly, not colored, because we don't color biological drawings. So they're shaded lightly to differentiate. So after shading, I will remove them. I remove them one after the other. I remove them. And when I remove them now, what do I have? I have this tissue and I carry my hand up. When I carry my hand up, which part do I touch? This is the part which I'm touching here, which is the style and the filament and the anthers. So I will realize that there are so many of them. There are more than 10. Once there are more than 10, you use the word infinity. You don't care about the number. But if there are 10 and below, you count and you put the precise number. So since there are more than 10, I'm going to indicate the androecium, just any number I like, but there should not be less than 10 on the board. So I will then indicate them. I will draw the many of them that are here like that. The androecium are many. So I draw them. There are many angles here, so I draw them like that. Then after drawing them, I also cut them up. I cut them off still using my hands, my bare hands. So I cut them off with this tissue because they are attached to this tissue. So I cut off this tissue. I cut off this tissue. I cut it off like that with a lot of care. Yes. All that counts in floral analysis is the care you take. You must be careful, and you should be very patient, because if you are too fast, you will cut what you want and you will not see it. So now, when I cut it now, I come up with a structure like this. This structure now is the female part of the flower. This is the pistil. So in this pistil, I now have the ovary here, I now have the long style, and I then have the stigma. These are the stigmas here. But what we are drawing on the floral diagram is that we are drawing the end. We are looking at it from the peduncle and going this way. So we come now here. What are we seeing here to represent this female? We are seeing these stigmas, these 5 stigmas here. There are 5 stigmas and they are all separate. They are joined below, but they are separate at the tip. So we come here and we indicate the 5, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the 5, and they are joined somewhere at the center. So these are the 5 stigmas. So this as a whole is a floral diagram of this flower. But before we write to conclude our floral diagram, we have realized, we have observed at first that this flower was bisexual, that it contained a male and a female, and that it was actinomorphic. So we write these signs there. This one includes that it means that it has bracts. So we can interpret this. You can say that just somebody by looking at this flower can say that this flower is an actinomorphic flower, meaning that it is regular and it can be bisected to 2 equal halves along any plane. And then it is bisexual. It has the male and the female reproductive parts. It has bracts. Then this flower has 5 sepals which are fused, and then it has 5 petals which have a regular arrangement inside, and then it has many and rhizome, and then it has 5 stigmas which are free. Okay, so this is what we have simply described in words, but reading from the floral diagram. Then from the floral diagram, we can now go to write down our floral formula. So in writing down the floral formula, we are going to still use this word spark. Okay, we are going to use the word spark, but this time around, the sepals are going to be represented by K, the petals will be represented by C, and then you have the androecium represented by A, and then you have the gynoecium represented by G. Okay, represented by that. So now, what do we then write? To write the floral formula, first of all, we write down that the flower is actinomorphic and it is bisexual. Then, how many sepals does it have? It has 5 sepals, and these sepals are fused. So we put it in brackets, meaning that the sepals are fused. How many petals does it have? It has 5 petals, and the petals are free. So we write the 5 and we leave it free. We don't put it in bracket. Then the androecium, how many of them are there? There are too many of them. So we put the sign of infinity. We have an infinite number of androecia. And then for the gynoecium, we see that it has 5 stigmas. 5 stigmas, and these stigmas are free. You see them completely separated on the top. So they are free like that. Then at this point, what is lacking, which we could also put now, is to put the kind of ovary which is there. So if we look at this ovary, we realize that the other floral parts did not originate from above the ovary, they originated from below here. Meaning that the ovary was sitting on these other floral parts, they originated from here. This is the part where we cut them. As we are cutting, we are looking. So we are going to describe this ovary as sitting on the other floral parts. So the ovary here will be described as superior. Otherwise, if the other floral parts are originated from above the ovary would be described as inferior. And if the other floral parts are originated from the middle part of the ovary, we will describe it as half superior or half inferior ovary. So now this our ovary that we have seen here is a superior ovary. So we now come to our floral formula and we'll come and put a dash down here. So meaning that the ovary, which has five, the stigma, the gynosis, we have 5 stigmas, has an ovary which is sitting on the other floral part, meaning that this ovary is superior. So you now realize that we can start from the whole flower, describe the external parts, whether it is a compound or simple flower, whether it is apple or it is a syn flower, depending on the various parts, and we will say whether the flower is one that can reproduce or it is a vestigial flower. So when we come now to that, we will now go to cut the flower and to draw the half flower, or the what is called the longitudinal section of the flower. And when we are drawing the longitudinal section, we see that the levels have increased from the ones of the whole flower. Then after that, we go further to write the floral diagram, and we write down or draw the floral diagram when we have destroyed the flower. And we should bear in mind that we always hold the flower at the peduncle and we start destroying from behind. And once you destroy, you draw them. Once you destroy, you draw. Once you destroy, you draw. And eventually you end up with a floral diagram that will look something like this. And from the floral diagram, you can write down the floral formula. But it is also certain that if you are given only this floral formula, it is possible to write down the floral diagram. You can read from here and draw the floral diagram, and eventually you can even draw a whole flower from this. You can draw a flower, an imaginary flower, from the floral formula. You go first to the floral diagram, and then you go eventually to the whole flower and draw and label the parts. So we should also note that in certain flowers, you may not be able to differentiate, like in this flower, this is the alamander flower. You may not know whether this part that I'm holding here is the bracts or it is the sepals, because it is green and it is not even covering an ovary. So now here we see that this part here, since we cannot differentiate it into the bract or the sepal, we call it the perianth. So we use the word perianth. So we call it the perianth loop. So this loop, which cannot be differentiated, whether to the sepal, whether it is the sepal or petal, whether it is the bract or it is a sepal, we use the term perianth to describe it. So this is the term that we use. So if you can have all of this as a working tool in floral analysis, then you should be sure that if you go in for the exam and anything comes on the flower, you will be able to scatter it and you give all that the examiner wants, and all your marks will be